The Crimson Fleet arrives. The void between stars had never seemed so empty, yet so full of dread. Commander Thane Reeves stood in the observation deck of the mining vessel Terra Nova, watching the long-range sensors paint a picture that would haunt humanity forever. Red dots appeared on the display like drops of blood against the black canvas of space, each one representing a ship larger than anything Earth had ever built. "Sir, we're getting massive energy readings from the outer system," reported Lieutenant Sarah Martinez from the bridge. Her voice carried across the ship's communication system with barely controlled fear. "The signatures are unlike anything in our databases." Thane closed his eyes for a moment, remembering the peaceful mining runs he'd made through this same asteroid field just weeks ago. The Terra Nova wasn't a warship. She was a converted industrial hauler designed to extract precious metals from the asteroid belt and transport them back to Earth's hungry manufacturing centers. Her crew of 43 men and women were miners, engineers, and scientists, not soldiers. But Thane had been a soldier once, before the resource wars ended and humanity turned its attention to the stars. He understood what those red dots meant, even if he wished he didn't. The communication array crackled to life with a transmission that would change everything. The voice that emerged was mechanical, translated by some alien device, but the message was crystal clear. "Primitive species of the third planet, you have been selected for integration into the Zephyrian Empire. Your resistance capabilities have been analyzed and found insufficient. You have 24 of your planetary rotations to surrender unconditionally. Failure to comply will result in orbital sterilization of your homeworld." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of life support systems. Thane felt his blood turn to ice as he processed the words. Integration. Sterilization. These weren't terms used by species interested in negotiation. "Martinez, get me a full scan of that fleet," Thane ordered, his voice steady despite the chaos in his mind. "I want to know what we're dealing with." The tactical display revealed the true scope of the threat. 147 vessels arranged in perfect formation, their crimson hulls gleaming under the distant light of Sol. The smallest ships were the size of Earth's largest space stations. The largest, a massive dreadnought that dominated the center of the formation, was nearly 8 kilometers from bow to stern. "Dear God," whispered Chief Engineer Rodriguez as he joined Thane at the observation deck. "How are we supposed to fight that?" Thane studied the formation with the eye of a military strategist. The Zephyrians had arranged their fleet in a classic intimidation pattern, designed to showcase their overwhelming superiority. It was effective psychological warfare, but it also revealed something important. They expected immediate surrender. They weren't prepared for a fight. "Rodriguez, what's the status of our mining operations?" Thane asked suddenly. The engineer looked confused. "Sir, we completed the extraction from asteroid 447b yesterday. The cargo hold is full of processed quantum crystals and rare earth elements. But I don't see how that's relevant to our current situation." A smile slowly spread across Thane's weathered face. Rodriguez didn't see it yet, but Thane did. 20 years of military service had taught him that every situation had possibilities, even the most hopeless ones. And humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to turn the ordinary into the extraordinary. "It's relevant because we're not just miners, Rodriguez. We're engineers. We're problem solvers. And we've just been handed the biggest problem in human history." The Terra Nova had been designed for one purpose: extracting valuable materials from the asteroid belt using quantum resonance technology. The process involved creating controlled quantum field disruptions that could break apart solid rock at the molecular level, separating useful metals from worthless debris. It was efficient, clean, and incredibly powerful. It was also, Thane realized, potentially devastating as a weapon. Over the next 6 hours, as the Zephyrian fleet maintained its ominous position at the edge of the solar system, Thane gathered his crew in the main cargo hold. The space was filled with containers of quantum crystals, each one containing enough energy to power a small city for a year. "I'm not going to lie to you," Thane began, looking into the faces of men and women who had signed up to mine asteroids, not fight alien invaders. Earth's military consists of 3 orbital defense platforms and a handful of patrol ships. Against what's out there, they might as well be throwing rocks. Chief Martinez raised her hand. So what are you suggesting, Captain? That we run? Try to reach one of the outer colonies? No, Thane replied firmly. I'm suggesting we do what humans do best. We adapt. We improvise. We turn our tools into weapons and our weaknesses into strengths. He gestured to the cargo containers around them. Each one of these quantum crystal charges contains more energy than the largest nuclear weapon ever built on Earth. Our mining lasers can cut through solid rock like butter. Our industrial fabricators can create complex machinery in hours instead of weeks. The crew began to understand. Engineer Santos, a young woman fresh from the Mars Technical Institute, spoke up. You're talking about weaponizing our mining equipment. I'm talking about survival, Thane corrected. The Zephyrians have superior numbers, superior technology, and superior firepower. But they don't have something we do. Desperation. They don't have the will to sacrifice everything for the chance to save their home. Over the next 18 hours, the Terra Nova underwent a transformation that would have impressed the greatest military engineers in human history. Mining lasers were recalibrated to focus their beams into devastating cutting tools. Quantum crystal charges were modified to create massive explosive devices. The ship's industrial fabricators worked around the clock to produce missile guidance systems from mining survey equipment. The most crucial modification was to the ship's quantum resonance array. Originally designed to break apart asteroids, the system was reconfigured to create a quantum field disruption of unprecedented magnitude. If Thane's calculations were correct, the device could tear apart molecular bonds across a massive area of space. But there was a catch. The Terra Nova would have to be at the center of the disruption field to control it effectively. A ship that activated the weapon would be destroyed in the process. As the deadline approached, Thane stood on the bridge, watching the Zephyrian fleet begin its approach to Earth. The aliens had apparently decided that humanity's failure to respond was confirmation of surrender. They were about to learn how wrong they were. All hands, this is the captain, Thane announced over the ship's communication system. In approximately 30 minutes, we're going to engage an enemy fleet that outguns us by a factor of several thousand to 1. I won't order anyone to stay. Anyone who wants to take a shuttle and try to reach Earth or one of the outer colonies is free to go. He paused, looking around the bridge at his crew. Not one person moved toward the exit. Very well then, Thane continued. Let's show these bastards what happens when you threaten humanity. The Terra Nova broke from its position in the asteroid field and accelerated toward the advancing Zephyrian fleet. The converted mining vessel looked impossibly small against the massive alien warships, like a single ant charging toward a battalion of tanks. But appearances could be deceiving, and the Zephyrians were about to learn that lesson the hard way. David meets Goliath. Admiral Exeris of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy had conquered 17 star systems in his illustrious career. Each victory had followed the same pattern. Overwhelming display of force, demand for surrender, and either integration or annihilation based on the target species' response. It was a system that had never failed. Standing in the command center of the massive dreadnought Crimson Dominion, Exeris watched with mild interest as a single human vessel approached his fleet. The ship was laughably primitive by Zephyrian standards, little more than an industrial hauler with crude modifications. "Shall we destroy it, Admiral?" asked his tactical officer, Commander Vex. "It appears to be some sort of mining vessel." Exeris waved a dismissive hand. "Let it approach. Perhaps the humans wish to negotiate their surrender terms. It would save us the trouble of bombarding their planet." The Terra Nova continued its approach, weaving between the larger asteroids that drifted through this region of space. Exeris noted the ship's movements with professional interest. The human pilot was skilled, he'd give them that. But skill meant nothing against overwhelming firepower. Aboard the Terra Nova, Thane was putting his plan into motion. The ship's original mining survey equipment had been repurposed into the most sophisticated sensor array humanity had ever deployed. Every Zephyrian ship was being analyzed, their power signatures measured, their weaknesses identified. "Rodriguez, what's the status of our modifications?" Thane asked. "Quantum resonance array is at full power," the engineer reported. "All mining charges are armed and ready. The fabricated missiles are loaded and targeted." "Martinez, how are we looking on the approach vector?" "Threading the needle perfectly, Captain. The asteroids are providing excellent cover, and the aliens don't seem to consider us a threat." That was exactly what Thane was counting on. The Zephyrians had made the same mistake that many powerful empires throughout history had made. They had underestimated their enemy's capacity for innovation. The first surprise came when the Terra Nova fired its opening salvo. What the Zephyrians expected to be crude projectile weapons were actually guided missiles created from mining survey probes. Each missile contained a quantum crystal charge designed to detonate inside an enemy ship's hull. The explosions that followed were unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. The quantum charges didn't just create conventional explosions. They disrupted the molecular structure of everything within their blast radius. 3 Zephyrian escort ships simply disintegrated, their advanced armor and shields useless against weapons that attacked matter at the fundamental level. "Impossible." Admiral Xeris roared as alarms blared throughout the Crimson Dominion. "How are they penetrating our shields?" The answer would have horrified him if he had understood it. Human mining technology was designed to break apart the strongest materials in the universe. Zephyrian shields were sophisticated, but they were still based on conventional energy dynamics. The quantum resonance weapons bypassed shields entirely, attacking the physical structure of the ships themselves. But Thane knew that surprise would only carry them so far. The Terra Nova was still vastly outnumbered, and the Zephyrians were rapidly adapting to the new threat. Enemy ships were spreading out, making it harder to target multiple vessels with single attacks. "Time for Phase 2, Thane announced. "Martinez, take us into the asteroid field. Let's see how well their big ships handle close-quarters combat." The Terra Nova dove into the densest part of the asteroid field, using the massive space rocks as both cover and weapons. The ship's mining lasers, originally designed to cut through asteroids, were now being used to destabilize the rocks and send them hurtling toward the Zephyrian fleet. It was an insane tactic that only worked because of humanity's unique approach to space mining. Where other species might use tractor beams or careful excavation, humans had always preferred the direct approach. Break it apart first, sort out the pieces later. The Zephyrian ships found themselves under assault from every direction. Asteroids the size of city blocks, propelled by precisely placed explosive charges, crashed into their formations. The larger alien ships had trouble maneuvering in the confined space, while the Terra Nova danced between the obstacles like it was designed for this environment. Because, in a very real sense, it was. Admiral Xeris was beginning to understand that he had gravely underestimated these humans. "All ships, focus fire on the mining vessel. Destroy it at any cost." The combined firepower of over 100 alien warships converged on the Terra Nova's position. The asteroid that had been providing cover simply vaporized under the assault. But when the energy beams cleared, the human ship was gone. "Where did it go?" Xeris demanded. The answer came from his sensor operator. "Admiral, it's inside asteroid 23C. They've somehow burrowed into the rock itself." Thane smiled grimly as the Terra Nova raced through the tunnel system his crew had carved into the massive asteroid over the past several hours. While the Zephyrians had been focusing on the ship's external attacks, a team of engineers had been using the mining equipment to create a complex network of passages inside the largest nearby asteroid. "This is it, people," Thane announced to his crew. "Final phase. Rodriguez, is the quantum resonance array ready for maximum output?" "Ready, Captain." "But sir, at that power level, the containment field won't hold. The explosion will consume everything within a 50-kilometer radius. Including us, Thane said quietly. I know. The Terra Nova burst from the asteroid like a bullet from a gun, heading straight for the Crimson Dominion. The massive Zephyrian dreadnought began firing every weapon it had, but the human ship was moving too fast and too erratically to hit. In the final moments before impact, Thane thought about Earth, about the billions of people who would never know his name or the names of his crew, about the children who would grow up free because 44 humans had been willing to die for them. For humanity, he whispered and activated the quantum resonance array. The explosion that followed was visible from Earth's surface, a brief new star that burned in the darkness between worlds. When the light faded, the entire Zephyrian fleet was gone, reduced to scattered atoms drifting in the void. On distant worlds throughout the galaxy, other alien empires received the news with shock and disbelief. The mighty Zephyrian Empire, conquerors of 17 star systems, had been completely destroyed by a single human ship. The message was clear. Humanity might be primitive by galactic standards, but they were not to be underestimated. They were inventors, innovators, and when cornered, they were absolutely deadly. In the years that followed, no alien fleet ever again approached Earth with the intention of conquest. The name Terra Nova became legend throughout the galaxy, a reminder that sometimes the smallest ship can carry the biggest surprise. And in the asteroid belt, where Thane Reeves and his crew had made their final stand, a monument was built from the quantum crystals they had died protecting. The inscription, visible to any ship passing through the system, read simply, "Here 44 humans prove that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. They gave their lives so that billions might live free." The Terra Nova's sacrifice had saved humanity, but more than that, it had announced to the galaxy that Earth's children were not victims waiting to be conquered. They were survivors, fighters and engineers who could turn mining tools into weapons of mass destruction. The age of human expansion into the galaxy had begun, and it started with the recognition that sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate.